This man says the news of the Hyundai worker arrest is not playing well in South Korea, and he says U.S. officials need to understand Korean culture if they want to repair any damage.
Do not understand what it means for Koreans to save face, to hold their honor intact. Somebody's got to apologize.
U.S. officials say many lacked proper visas, but leaked documents now suggest some were here legally.
Not only is this certain to make South Korea more hesitant about it, but it sends a message to every other country in the world.
안녕하세요, 원다입니다. 한국 특수로 호황을 누리던 미국 조지아주가 한국 근로자 구금 사태 이후 급작스러운 경제 한파에 떨고 있습니다. 불과 몇 년 전까지만 해도 한국 기업 진출로 인구가 급증하고 건설 붐이 일었던 조지아주가 이번 사태로 외국인 투자 위축 우려가 커진 가운데 수백 년 동안 운영해오던 제지 공장들까지 줄줄이 문을 닫으며 하루아침에 경제 불안 지역으로 전락했는데요. 그동안 이민당국의 단속을 지지한다는 입장이던 공화당 소속인 브라이언 캠프 조지아 주지사도 지난 18일 꼭 필요한 한국의 전문 기술 인력을 위해 비자 제도 개선이 필요하다며 입장을 선회했습니다.
Governor Brian Kemp breaking his silence on an immigration raid that saw almost 500 people detained. It happened earlier this month at the Hyundai plant near Savannah.
Doug, what did the governor have to say about all this?
Well, this was the first time that we've heard from Governor Brian Kemp in person about this raid. He called the arrest and detainment of some 300 South Koreans here to help build that Hyundai plant confusing, and then called for changes to the U.S.'s visa system.
I think there's a lot of confusion about what really happened down there. And I think this is one of those times where, something good will come out of this in the end to help address the problem that, a lot more companies than just Hyundai are having.
Asked if he was worried the raid might force other foreign companies to rethink investing in Georgia.
I'm not going to be naive to the fact that they didn't pay attention to what happened last week, but I will tell you we've had good conversations with companies that are here.
Chris Clark, president and CEO of the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, agreed with the governor.
These are temporary workers that come here. They train up Americans. They bring unique expertise and knowledge to this state, and we need a visa system that allows them to do their job, because at the long term, Georgia workers benefit from that.
이민자 단속을 지지했던 미국 정치인들과 조지아주의 인사들이 이렇게 입장을 선회한 이유는 미국 유권자들의 불만과 비난이 폭주하고 있기 때문인데요.
Is this the kind of impact that the administration wanted to create? It's either ignorance and incompetence and they just don't care, or it's actually that they want to sabotage our economic success for some reason. Because not only is this certain to make South Korea more hesitant about investing in the U.S., about partnering with the U.S., but it sends a message to every other country in the world who's giving any thought to investing in U.S. business, in putting money, plants, factories into the U.S.
I am embarrassed, okay, as a battery scientist and engineer. In the United States, we need all the help we can get to build our gigafactories, build our battery factories. And here we had ICE came in and detained Korean Hyundai workers when they're trying to help us establish a battery value chain in North America. If we don't have people from other countries who actually know how to build batteries coming and teaching us Americans how to build batteries, how are we going to build batteries here? How are we going to have an automotive industry? How are we going to be able to maintain our economy? Americans can build batteries, but we don't have enough people that know how to do this. And China leads the world globally when it comes to battery technology, by far. We need to work with Europe and Korea and Japan and other countries to build up this global value chain of batteries. Those Korean Hyundai workers weren't even staying here for very long. They were just coming here to show us the know-how about the equipment and the process and then go back to Korea. They don't want to stay here. Korea's battery industry is booming. It's amazing. Earlier this year, I was in Seoul, Korea at Interbattery 2025, one of the biggest battery conferences in the world with 80,000 people attending. That's like nearly twice the size as the battery conferences in North America. Their battery conference looks like the Consumer Electronics Show. I mean, look at this Porsche Taycan at the LG Energy Solutions booth. So now you may see why I'm a bit embarrassed. And what are we going to do if we're deporting the people who are trying to help us set up this industry? There's no strategy to this, is there? Like, what's going on? This is embarrassing.
그동안 한국인 근로자들의 활동이 불법이었다고 보도해왔던 미국 언론들도 하나둘 정황이 밝혀지며 미국 당국의 체포와 구금이 적법하지 못했음을 깨닫고 있는 듯한데요. 이에 이번 사태를 수습하기 위해선 한국의 문화를 이해하고 반드시 사과해야 함을 지적합니다.
Federal agents raided the Hyundai battery plant under construction near Savannah. They detained nearly 500 workers, more than 300 of them South Korean nationals. U.S. officials say many lacked proper visas, but leaked documents now suggest some were here legally. It sparked diplomatic friction, with South Korea warning future investments could be at risk here.
Of course, I'll just is that they were there on valid ESTA visa waivers, and that the work that they were doing was permitted within that regulation. Is that the gist of it?
That is the gist of it. So under the ESTA business visitor or the B1 business visitor program, you can come in and go to business meetings. You can do engineering oversight. You can do after sales service and installation, which is what these people were doing in the United States. A Hyundai battery plant doesn't just spring into existence. It has to be built by people who build battery plants, and those people don't live in the United States.
Okay, so they were also, just to be clear, within the expiration date of their ESTA, and they weren't being paid out of the US domestic entity. Is that correct? Because these are also important aspects of immigration.
That is correct. There was no visa overstays. And in fact, a couple of these people had only been there 3 days when this raid occurred, and they were leaving this week. They were just literally coming for meetings. ICE did not do a very good job of preparing for this raid.
So when you turn up and point out, look, these people were doing this, they're on valid visas, blah, blah, blah. When you make your application, what has ICE said to you about why they don't accept these people were there?
ICE is saying nothing because they won't communicate with us. That's the problem here. Keeping in mind that these are the highly qualified technicians and engineers that build battery plants. So this is going to be a major blow to the economy here in Georgia.
Would you suggest to any, look, Quest means business. We have huge number of business, significant business executives, engineers watching us tonight. Would you say, be very careful before you go to the United States. Be very careful. You never know whether it's at the airport or when you get to your meetings or whatever. Or is this just a really case of bad luck for your clients?
I don't think this is bad luck. I think this is the new policy of this administration. And I think people do have to be careful before deciding to come to the United States to engage in business activities. Frankly, you'd be foolish not to think about this and the potential downside of that type of investment or that type of visit.
Are you concerned for yourself, in a sense? You're taking on high-profile cases. All of a sudden, who knows how many tax audits you'll get, how much investigations you'll end up with?
You know, somebody has to stand up, and I'm more than willing to be that person for my clients. The reality is, President Trump and this administration is only in office for 3.5 more years. Well, I'm not sure we've been through worse, but I know we can deal with this.
A day after ICE agents released 300 South Koreans, we're hearing about their ordeal. They insist they were in the U.S. legally, but were detained anyway. Channel 2's Richard Elliott spoke exclusively with a friend and relative of the now former detainees.
The Korean community is outraged.
His cousin was a senior finance executive for Hyundai in the U.S., he says, on a valid work visa when ICE agents raided the plant last week. He, along with 299 other South Korean workers, were taken to the ICE detention center in Folkestone. He says agents never told his cousin why he was detained and never told him why he was released. He flew home with his family Wednesday, only after the direct intervention of the South Korean government. Her friend is Mexican, but she says a legal permanent resident with DACA status. When he was detained, she says the entire community raised such a ruckus with elected officials, ICE finally released him Wednesday. This man says the news of the Hyundai worker arrest is not playing well in South Korea, and he says U.S. officials need to understand Korean culture if they want to repair any damage.
Do not understand what it means for Koreans to save face, to hold their honor intact while dealing with this situation. Somebody's got to apologize.
Now, we did reach out to ICE for comment. ICE told us any comment would have to come from the White House, so we reached out to the White House for a response. We have yet to hear back.
잠시 안내드리겠습니다. 지난번 원더 채널에서 진행했던 백진삼 행사에서 많은 분들이 폭발적인 반응을 보여주셨는데요. 섭취 후 휴가를 보신 분들이 추석 행사로 진행할 수 없냐는 문의를 정말 많이 하셔서 휴가 물량을 확보, 한 번 더 최저가로 구매할 수 있게 준비를 마쳤습니다. 백진삼은 자연산 삼의 DNA를 99% 동일하게 복제해서 150년 이상 된 감정가가 3억 원인 자연산 삼을 먹는 것과 같은 효능을 담아낸 제품으로 한 포당 진세너사이드가 무려 81mg이나 들어있습니다. 그래서 그 어떤 제품보다도 그 효과가 탁월한데요. 백진삼 공식 홈페이지에는 이미 이 효과를 경험한 8,000개 이상의 후기들이 올라와 있으며 7일 이내 효과가 없을 시 100% 환불이라는 조건을 내걸고 있는 만큼 엄청난 자신감으로 무장한 제품입니다. 특히 몸에 좋은 성분이 최대한 체내에 흡수될 수 있도록 스위스 제네바 국제신기술에서 금상을 수여한 나노 공법으로 제작되어 그 어떤 제품과도 비교할 수 없는 효과를 나타내고 있는데요. 이 백진삼은 남녀노소 모두가 먹을 수 있는 제품으로 인터넷 최저가보다도 훨씬 저렴한 129,900원에 제공하고 있으며 3+1, 5+2, 7+3 혜택으로 더 많이 구매하실수록 더 저렴해집니다. 관심이 있으신 분은 고정 댓글에 있는 링크로 들어가셔서 상세한 상품 설명과 후기들을 읽어보시고 구매하시기 바랍니다. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다. 원다였습니다.